I want to go today and I want to talk to you on the topic of Jonah again. Last week we talked about Jonah and we learned some things. Today we're going into the belly of the whale and we're going to have a tale of a whale. We're going to talk about Jonah and the part that most people think about when we think about Jonah. You know, you think about a guy who was in the belly of a whale for 3 days. But I want to bring some points into the spotlight today that I think may help you. I think may help you where you're at and when you're going through different things in life. So let's read the passage. Then we're going to go back and review what we said last week, and we're going to jump right in to what the Lord is saying for us today. In Jonah chapter number 1, and we're going to read verses 1 through 17, it says this: "The word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it because its wickedness has come up before me." But Jonah ran away from the Lord, and he headed for Tarshish. And he went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. And after paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. And then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, with such a violent storm that arose that the ship was threatened to break up. And all the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own God. And they threw the cargo into the ship to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down, fell into a deep sleep. The captain went to him and said, "How can you sleep? Get up, call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us, and we will not perish." Then the sailors said to each other, "Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity." And they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they asked him, "Tell us, who is responsible for making all of this trouble for us? What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? From what people are you?" Can you see the panic in their voice with everything? Now, you got to remember, while this conversation is going on, man, the storm is going, the ship is rocking, water's coming over the sides of the boat and everything. These guys are firing rapid questions at Jonah. And he answered, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." And the sea was getting rougher and rougher. So they asked him, "What should we do to you to make the sea calm down for us?" Now, why are they doing it to Jonah? Remember, they cast lots. We said last week, lots were 2 stones. One side had white, one side had black on each of the stones. Whenever you cast lots, if both of the stones were white, it was a yes answer. If both of the stones came up black, it was a no answer. If it was white and black, you recast them. So this was their way back in that culture to make a decision. We don't do that now. We go to the Lord and we ask, but that's the only way. And they were doing this because they were from multiple backgrounds and they had multiple gods. So it was a common thing to do. So the lot fell to Jonah. When they brought up Jonah and they rolled the stones, Jonah is the one that got the 2 white stones that said, "This is the guy." So he said, "I'm a Hebrew. I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the land." And this terrified them. And they said, "What have you done?" And he knew he was running away from the Lord because he had already told them so. So he said, "Pick me up, throw me into the sea, and it will become calm. I know that it's my fault and that this great storm has come upon you." Instead, the men didn't want to throw him into the sea because at this point, remember, the boat's still rocking, the winds are still blowing, they're doing everything they can. Now they've thrown their cargo over. Remember, the cargo, if they got to land and they had no cargo, they could be killed. The person that had ordered the cargo would probably kill them. So now, instead, the men began to row their boat back to land the best they could, but they couldn't, for the sea grew even wilder than before. And they cried out, "Please, Lord, don't let us die for taking this life. Do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man for you, Lord. Do as you please." And they took Jonah and they threw him overboard, and the sea grew calm. And at this, the men feared the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord, and they made vows to him. The good part of the story is, at this point on the boat, as the sea calmed, these men offered a sacrifice, and they called out to God. So the whole boat got saved. But Jonah's in the water. Now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah. And he was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Last week we talked about this, and these are some of the things we said. Someone who is running from God makes excuses. Notice Jonah began to make all of these excuses why he shouldn't go to Nineveh. When you run from God, you run to dangerous places. In your mind, in your body, in your spirit. When you run from God, you will always find yourself in a storm. And you can't expect protection when you're ignoring God's voice. When you run from God, things will go wrong. Your plans will fail. We said when you run from God, the others around you also pay a price. We said your storm may be a sign that God isn't finished with you yet. God wants you back. So, here we go in today's story. Jonah is in the water. The boat has moved on. A large fish has come and has swallowed Jonah. Jonah should have known better to get himself in this place. He knew the Lord. He was a prophet. He was a man of God. But God told him to do something he didn't want to do. He told him, in essence, there's something in your life, and I'm going to touch that thing in your life, and I'm going to see how you react. In essence, Jonah had some prejudiceness in his life because the Ninevites were a people that nobody wanted to go to. Because a Ninevite, in those days, they were very cruel, as we said. They were known to skin people and then leave them out in the sun to bake. They were known to sacrifice babies. They were known, the kings would cut people's lips off. They would do horrific things. And Jonah has been called to go to Nineveh, a place that hated Jews, and Jews hated Ninevites. And he went in a complete opposite direction. He went, and we said this journey would have taken him almost a year to get there. Talk about going in the opposite direction. So here is where we find ourselves. Jonah is in the belly of a whale. Now, when we were kids, we thought about this, and we, thought, I don't know about you, but I've seen in flannel graphs, Jonah and the whale, and, they've had little fires in the belly of the whale and all of this type of stuff. Everybody listen to me. You can't build a fire in the belly of a whale. I hate to burst your Sunday school stories and your Bible studies and everything, but it's impossible. You just can't do it. Everything's wet. Can you imagine the smells inside that fish? Take something that has been rotted for like 5 or 6 days out in the sun. Now put yourself inside of it with all of the acid that's eating away at those fish. Take yourself in there with slime. Take yourself in there with all of the other things that is going on. Jonah had a decision to make. Would he be bitter and angry? Would he curse God from his smelly tomb? Or would he be remorseful and repent? And listen to me. Repentance means I turn and go in the opposite direction. Repentance doesn't mean if I'm going this direction and I say I have truly repented, it doesn't mean that I go here. That's not repentance. Repentance is not even here. Repentance is not even here. Repentance is turning and going back from what you were in, away from it completely. You see, Jonah didn't know what was going to happen. For all he knew, he was going to be slowly digested by this fish in an agonizing way of death. For 3 days, Jonah had a lot of time to think about his decision. Would he continue to disobey God? Once again, Jonah had a decision to make. That question is quickly answered in the first part of chapter number 2. Jake, if you'll adjust that air, please. In the first part of chapter 2, from inside the fish, Jonah prayed to the Lord his God. From inside his situation, from where he was at, from being right in the middle of a fish, in the belly of a whale, Jonah prayed to his God. You know, I don't know where you like to pray at. I don't know where your place is. I love to go and sit in my backyard. It's a peaceful place, and I love to go and sit and pray there. I love to pray at different times and places, and it's a nice place to pray. It's usually a peaceful place to pray. But Jonah's prayer chapel was in a fish. What are you trying to tell us, Pastor? No matter where you are, you can make it a place of prayer. No matter where you are. It wasn't peaceful. It was filled with strange noises. It was filled with all of this stuff that was going on. Jonah didn't have a lot of options. There was nothing else to do. I wonder, though, how long it took Jonah to begin to pray. Did he pout before he started? Was he angry? Or did he immediately turn to God? We really don't know. We don't know what the options were. All we know was it was completely dark. Anyone been in complete darkness before where you can't see your hand in front of your face? This is the belly of a whale. Sludge, slime, smells. You go, no one can live in the belly of a whale. Jonah did. Because God's trying to teach us something. Jonah should have prayed on the deck of the boat. I think when he's in that belly of the whale, he's going like, okay, I was dumb. He should have prayed. He should have been there. What is obvious, though, was at the end of his life, as he thought it was, Jonah turned to God. He didn't really have an option, did he? He realized that things were going bad quickly. He didn't have an option. He couldn't help himself. He thought it over. Many people, listen to me, many people have to hit bottom before they're willing to listen and obey God. Life storms often bring you to this moment when you have nowhere else to go and no one else to turn to. What do? You turn to God. Maybe your belly of the whale moment is in a hospital room by yourself, frustrated without answers. But you begin to pray. For others, it's a jail cell that forced a time of reflection. You made the decision to turn to God. It might have been a failed marriage, a business disaster, a public mistake, and a failure. But you turned to God. For some of you, the belly of the whale may have been at the bottom of a bottle. Your addiction took everything and left you nothing. That's when you cried out to God. Regardless of where you find yourself, in desperation, you need God. You see, at rock bottom, sitting in the guts of failure, Jonah turned to God. I've said this before. Failure is not final. Failure can be a catalyst. Failure can be a catalyst. If you're at rock bottom today, or if you're headed there, I want you to listen closely. There are some valuable lessons today that you need to learn from the tail of a whale. You see, when you're at the end of your rope and there's nowhere to turn, and you mistakenly think, I can't pray. I got myself into this situation by ignoring and disobeying God. There's no way He's going to listen to me and help me now. I got myself into this and I've got to get myself out. That is not true. That is not true. I've heard people say, I got myself into the mess, I'll get myself out. If you got yourself into the mess and you continue to go into the mess over and over again, if you're a repeat offender of messes, it's quite obvious, hello, you don't know what you're doing. Epiphany. You need help. You see, here is what Noah said. He said, in my distress, I called the Lord, and He answered me from the depths of the grave. I called for help, and you listened to my cry. God didn't ignore Jonah. He didn't say, sorry, you disobeyed me. You're out of luck. You ran from me, and this is what you're going to get. That's not what God said. God didn't say, good luck, figure it out. The only reason you ask God for help many times is because you have no other choice. Isn't that sad? You see, God still honors prayer, though. Listen to me. Here's what you need to learn. God hears desperate prayers. God hears desperate prayers. When you are in distress, He hears you. He hears you from the prison cell. He hears you from the hospital bed. He hears you from the bankrupt and broken place you're in. He hears the prayers of those who have failed. In the middle of your relapse, He hears you. When your marriage is crumbling, He hears you. God hears desperate prayers. You see, another thing you need to hear is this. God's priority is not to pay you back, but to get you back. Well, God must be paying me back. Why would someone who loves you want to pay you back? Well, you played, with my emotions, so I'm going to play with yours. Really, what does that do? Except create more emotions. What does that do? You see, God's priority is not to pay you back, to get you back. He paid a high price for a relationship with you. And when you take a tiny step toward Him, He's ready. He wants a relationship with you. What could Jonah offer from the belly of a whale? Think about it. He was dirty, smelly, far from home, disobedient, a prophet. His story would not be a secret. When they got to port, the sailors would tell everyone about the foolish guy who was running from God, and he seemed his life and ministry was over. We threw him overboard. They're like, oh, dead prophet. Go tell a story. It was probably told through all of Nineveh. It was probably told through all those things. Yeah, we had this guy who was on a boat with us. Man, this storm came up, and we're out there. He's asleep. We go, and we go, what is this? We cast lots. It came up on him, and we're like, so what are we going to do with you? He goes, throw me overboard. We're like, we don't want to, but we started rolling. The storm got worse. We took the little guy, and we threw him over. There was this fish. He came up and swallowed him. The storm's good, and here we are. That was a tale of a whale. I know it's a whale of a tale, but I'm doing it backwards. It's the tail. I have someone over here coaching me. What is it with women trying to coach me today? I'm in trouble now, if I wasn't before. You see, I have this story, a tale, T-A-L-E, of a whale. This is what God is trying to tell you. You see, many times I've talked to people who have failed and are at rock bottom. They say, I'd like to come back to church. I'd like to come back to God. But I've got to fix things first. I've got to clean up and get sober. As soon as I get things worked out, I'll be back. It's like getting cleaned up before you take a shower. You don't have to wait. God doesn't expect you to get cleaned up before you come back, and neither do we. You don't have to get clean and sober. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to have a perfect marriage. You don't have to have that. We are all messed up. If you don't believe me, look at your neighbor. Emily. Emily's like, I ain't looking at her. You see, God will love you and accept you, and so will we. It doesn't matter what you've done. God is ready, and God is waiting for you. Verse 3 says, you hurled me into the deep, into the very heart of the seas, and the current swirled about me. All your waves, and the breakers swept over me. You see, right here we see a big change in Jonah. Who threw Jonah into the sea? It was the sailors, right? Jonah looked back from the belly of the whale and recognized that God was in charge of it all along. Instead of blaming the sailors, Jonah said, "It was you, God. Even though they physically threw me overboard, I recognized that you were behind it. It was you all along." You see, when you finally surrender to God, you'll do the same thing. You'll look back at the events of your life and you will see that God was involved all along. Someone confronted you and made you mad, maybe. You'll look back and realize maybe that God was speaking through them about something inside of you. You get angry. You say, one day all those church people, I see it. Can you really see it? Maybe God was speaking to you and confronting you. You lose your job, you get sick, your business fails, your wife asks for a separation. You will look back and say, at times, was God dealing with something inside of me? You see, I have to ask myself a lot of times, God, what are you saying to me in this situation? What are you saying to me? Well, I didn't do that. They did this. Yeah, but how am I reacting to it? Am I listening to you, God, or am I running from you? You see, when you surrender your life to God, not only will your relationship with Him straighten out, it will also will also change how you view where you are in the situation that you are in. Guys, if you'll come. You see, for years, you may have been blaming people. Here's something you need to know. Blame is the number one enemy of spiritual growth. Blame is the number one. I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. Well, Pastor, you don't know what they did. You don't know what the church did. You don't know what you did. You don't know these. Stop blaming everybody else. The hurt is your hurt. It's not theirs. Wow. I want to say that one more time. It wasn't in my note, but it bears repeating. The hurt is not someone else's hurt. It's your hurt. Deal with it. Deal with it. We all have pain. We all have things. Jonah was running because Jonah had pride in him. Jonah had prejudice in him. Jonah had all of these things, and he was a prophet. God used him. Listen to me. Listen to me. You may be in here today or someone watching. You may be that person that God is using in a special way. But there comes a point where if we are not careful, we will allow spiritual pride to overtake us, and what was once something that was good can become a negative. I've seen it too many times. Spiritual pride, spiritual judgment. This is where Jonah was. You see, when you surrender to God, you'll find it easier to forgive those that you are blaming. Jonah continued with his prayer. I said, I've been banished from your sight, yet I will look again toward your holy temple. The engulfing waters threatened me. They surrounded me. The seaweed was wrapped around my head. The roots of the mountains I sank down. The earth beneath barred me in forever. But you brought me up from the pit, oh my God. When my life was ebbing away, I remembered you, Lord, and my prayer rose to you, to your holy temple. You see, when the sailors threw Jonah overboard, he knew his life was over. With water filling his lungs and seaweed wrapped around his head and sinking to the bottom of the ocean, Jonah was drowning in his situation. He was done. His final comments of life, he couldn't even whisper a prayer, but his soul cried out to God for his salvation. And that was when God rescued him. The fish swallowed Jonah, but God saved him from death. Your situation may have seemed like it swallowed you, but God will save you from death. Your situation, and I'm talking about spiritual death. I'm talking about emotional death. I'm talking about that thing that has been looming over you for so long. I'm here to tell you that just as God delivered Noah or Jonah from the belly of the whale, God will deliver you. You see, it's never too late to pray. When life and its hardships are crushing you, when the consequences of your disobedience is more than you can take, cry out to God. It's never too late to ask Him for help. If you can't speak, breathe a prayer. If you can't breathe a prayer, think a prayer. God will lift you up from the pit. God will take you from the place of no hope and give you hope. God specializes in the hopeless and forgotten. He still loves you and He still has a plan for you. You see, some of you today may be hurting so badly you're not even sure if you can pray. Whisper His name, Jesus. He'll hear you and He will respond to you. Because it's never too late. Verse 8 said, those who cling to worthless idols forfeit the grace that could be theirs. But I, here's what Jonah said, but I, with a song of thankfulness, will sacrifice to you. Where was Jonah? In the belly of a whale. But he said, those who cling, I think Jonah's coming to himself. Those who cling to things that don't matter, worthless idols. Because anything that stands between you and God has become an idol. Those who cling to worthless things forfeit the grace that could be theirs. But I, put your name there. But I, with a song of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you. From the belly of the fish with no hope, Jonah began to worship. Wish I could have had a glimpse of that, don't you? Nostrils filled with all the smells, slime all over him. Breaking out, I don't know if the acid was eating at his skin, what was happening, but he was thankful that he didn't die while he was running. His God gave him grace, just like God will give you grace. God gave Jonah a chance to repent. Today is your chance to repent. If you're online watching, if you're watching this later, it is never too late to turn in the opposite direction. What a powerful lesson. Listen to me. Worship isn't just what you do in church on the weekends when you're feeling good. Worship is what you do when everything has gone wrong. Worship is what you do when your enemy says, I'm coming after you. Worship is what you do when your spouse leaves. Worship is what you do when you've lost it all. When you're sitting in your circumstances, it can't dictate your worship. At your very worst, you need to sing. When it looks like all hope is gone, and when you have no future, sing from the belly of the whale. When you've hit rock bottom, lift your voice and sing. Thank God for His mercy. I wonder what song Jonah sang. I don't know, but all I noted is this. When the word of the Lord came to Jonah, Jonah began to sing. Active disobedience deafens your voice to God. But Jonah, listen, I'm here to tell you today, no matter where you are, no matter what's going on, from the belly of whatever situation that you have, God still has a plan for you. For you. It's not over. As a matter of fact, God still has the same plan for you. The plan you've been running from. What does running do? It wears you out. A lot of times we're running We don't even know where we're going. It's like a treadmill. Where are you going? Well, I don't know, but I'm running. No, you're lost. If you don't know where you're going, you're lost. You see, verse 3 says, Jonah obeyed the word of the Lord, and he went to Nineveh. Jonah got out of his situation. He was thrown up. I don't know about y'all, but I don't like to throw up. Can you imagine being in the middle of a whale's throw up? Ugh. I won't go into a lot of it because some of you have weak gag reflexes. We don't want a puke party going on. Can you imagine all the junk and everything coming out, and Jonah's laying in the middle of it? Jonah didn't deserve a second chance. He certainly didn't deserve to do what God had originally called him to. But it's a beautiful picture of the grace and mercy of God. Who are you today? What's going on in your life? Are you running from God? Do you feel like all hope is lost? Today I'm here to tell you there's hope. His name is Jesus. At the mention of his name. So here's what I want you to remember today. God hears desperate prayers. God's priority is not to pay you back, but to get you back. Blame is the number one enemy of spiritual growth. It's never too late to pray. Active disobedience deafens your voice to God. And lastly, as we ended last week, God still has a plan for you. With every head bowed and every eye closed. I don't know where you are today, and I don't know what's going on in your life. I don't know what's happening all around you. I don't know what you feel like you've been swallowed up by. Maybe it's just things. Maybe it's you can't find clarity in your mind. I don't know. Maybe it's you've been swallowed up by the internet. Maybe you've been swallowed up by pornography. Maybe you've been swallowed up by animosity. Maybe you've been swallowed up by blame. Maybe you've been swallowed up by unforgiveness. Maybe you've been swallowed up by the repeat things that you keep doing over and over again, wondering if God can ever get you out. Someone listen to me. God has a plan for you. And today, as they begin to sing, I want you to know these altars are open. Just like Jonah found himself out of the belly of the whale and on a dry shore. Today, these altars are the shore that God wants to take you to give you the opportunity to turn it around. Father, right now in the name of Jesus, I have felt your spirit in this place today. Lord, I pray today that as we move into these next moments, Father, that there would be nothing inside of us that hinders us going after you. That there would be nothing inside of us that stops us from repenting. That there would be nothing inside of us that stops us from the blame game. That there would be nothing inside of us that says, I've gone too far, I'm in a big mess. Father, let us know today, you are the God that has redeemed us from every situation. And today, Father, we hear your voice and we turn and head to you. In the name of Jesus, these altars are open right now. If you don't know Jesus or you need to run to a shore that is ready for you, this is where you need to be. Right now, the altars are open for you.